Danny Segura for MMA Junkie. I'm here with Josh Emmett, a top UFC featherweight contender. And this is a bit of a interesting interview because we recently had him on MMA Junkie. Georgian Ghost talked to him last week in Vegas. But after UFC 317, I saw his name floating around on social media. So I wanted to get his thoughts on what happened, as well as some other things going on in his career. So first of all, Josh, how are you? And yeah, how's it going? I see you're back from Vegas.
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. It's great to be here as well.
Yeah. As I said right at the top, man, obviously like what Ilia Topuria did on Saturday was huge, picking up a second belt in another weight class. There was a lot of chatter around that. But then I saw kind of like a second wave on social media of people just kind of going like, damn, how tough is Josh Emmett? Because you're the only one that's gone 25 minutes with him toe to toe. So wondering how has been the fan reaction? Have you gotten some of that love, some of that respect thrown your way?
Yeah, no, of course I see it too, and everything's just kind of floating around, and it's yeah, hats off to Ilya. He accomplished something that very few have been able to do, and yeah, he is good. But yeah, I see that. I'm like, he's lucky that there was there was a time limit.
Yeah. I guess like looking at what he did on Saturday, did you expect him to go to those great heights, I guess, when you fought him? And also like how hard does he hit? Because like in the fight with you, he threw everything at you and he couldn't get you out of there. I mean, you guys went in a fight of the night for 25 minutes.
Yeah, no, he's great. I did expect him to do great things, just because he's so technically sound. Also, when we fought, I don't know. People were asking me that. How hard does he hit? And yeah, of course he hits hard. Um, but from a pure I don't know, like while we were fighting, I feel like I've been hit harder by people that I've fought. But the thing with Ilya is his footwork is good. He's always in a really good position. He's fast and he's very precise and accurate. And
Yeah.
so he's not loading up 100%. He's landing the accuracy and precision with the speed, and that's where the power. He's a phenomenal, featherweight now, lightweight champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he does moving forward.
Yeah. I guess who's hit harder? If you don't mind sharing that. And obviously all respect to Ilya, but from your experience, you said you faced harder punches.
Yeah, no. I was always saying on the regional scene when I fought Christos
Okay.
Yaga as a lightweight,
Okay.
we fought. He hit really hard. Dan Ige can crack too.
Dan Ige
Dan
hits very
Ige
hard now.
hit really hard too. So from just a pure just getting hit with power, you're like, damn, that was a hard punch. I'd say Dan Ige.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting, and it's an interesting conversation now. Like, who's pound for pound? Because it was like I feel like Islam had that unlocked, but then after that performance, people are kind of having second thoughts. In your opinion, who's the number one guy right now, pound for pound in the sport? Do you have Ilya up there, or is it still Islam?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I know a long time. Obviously, John Jones just retired.
Yeah,
I would say he would have to be pound for pound, but now since he's not no longer with the UFC, it's definitely I'd say a toss up between Islam and Ilya. And now that Ilya is a two divisional champion, undefeated, I would probably be leaning towards him.
yeah. And I want to talk about now your career. You spoke to Georgian Ghost from MMA Junkie Radio. Literally right before you spoke to them, they interviewed Yusuf Salah. He called you out, and you kind of poured cold water on that. You're like, I'm looking for bigger fights, but you didn't specify names. So I'm just curious, like, you obviously know what you don't want, right? As far as fights. So what is it that you want? What is there any specific names that interest you at featherweight right now?
Yeah, anyone who's in front of me. To be honest, it's like a
Okay.
lot of guys have fights booked. Obviously when Yair and Diego were supposed to fight, um, and Yair turned that down, I was like, man, I would take that fight. But then, Gene Silva's getting the fight. Now
Yeah.
I see Ortega, Aljo fighting, Mossbar and Pico, Pitbull and Ige. It's just crazy. The division is like really wrapped up. I want big fights or a really exciting fight, a fight that really excites me. Even if I go up to 55s, I would go up to
Mm.
55s for a exciting matchup or just a big fight at featherweight. that's going to get me closer to, you know, to the top. So it's like I don't want to just keep fighting all these, you know, prospects behind me that a lot of people don't really know about.
Yeah.
It doesn't excite me at all, and it
Yeah.
does nothing
And
for me.
right. No, and you've done that a lot too throughout your career. I
Yes.
believe you also mentioned that in that interview. So I do think it's fair for you to start getting those big names, and given the type of fights that you put on and your power as well, I think you know, the UFC, and Dana White said it a million times, they're in the business of making holy shit moments, and I think you're a great ingredient to sprinkle into a fight to create that, right? How serious are those 155 talks? Have you brought that idea up to the UFC and been like, hey man, if something comes up, hit me up at 155 if needed?
Yeah, no, talk to my manager about it too. It's like, you know, it'd still be a tough cut to make five. So yeah, I'm more than if it was a big, exciting matchup, man, sign me up. And it's like I want to fight on, I want to fight on big pay-per-view main cards as well. I feel like you know, I've earned that. The fans want to see exciting matchups, and I aim to go out there and deliver highlight reel finishes.
Yeah, no, 100%. Um, yeah, you're 40 years old. You still have a lot left in the tank, as we've seen in your last fight. But I guess, like, what are sort of the goals? I'm sure, like, earlier in your career, the focus was solely on the belt. I don't know if that's still the case, or are you kind of just looking at other things, whether it's fighting on specific cards, specific names, going places, maybe a certain record that you see out there? Is there anything that sort of is exciting you right now in your career?
Yeah, it's still the same, man. I still have the same goals that I did
Mhm.
when I first got into the sport. It's like I want to be the best in the world. I want to fight for a title. I can hang with anybody in the division, and I feel like I can beat anybody. Um, but yeah, I just want to fight forward, and I want these exciting matchups. But yeah, of course, I still have the same goals. Otherwise, why are you doing this? I'm not just going to fight for a paycheck. Like I know what I'm capable of, and yeah, still same goals moving forward.
Yeah. I love the John Silva versus Diego Lopez fight. It's a fantastic fight, but I think it would have been a very much like it would have made more sense for you to fight John Silva. I think that fight would have been a lot of fun, and you know, all respect to Silva, right? But he's killing it. But he's going straight to the number one guy right now who just fought for the belt, right? In terms of the list of contenders, is that a fight that interests you?
Well, yeah, and that was one of the things too. Like, you know, he's a big name guy. I know a lot of people wanted to see him and I fight. So even though
Yeah,
he was behind me, I was like, he's a huge name. The UFC loves the fighting nerds. The fans love him. So I did throw that out there, but then I found out, oh, he's getting the Diego fight, and I was like, well, how is that even possible? With MMA math, he beat Bryce Mitchell, who was 15 at the time. He wasn't even in the top 15.
yeah,
So then he's ranked 15. Now he moves down to 11. Then he gets the number two guy. So with that MMA math, when I knocked out Bryce when he was number 9, I should have fought for the title. But hey,
right.
that's
Yeah,
not the way it works. So it's just crazy. But everything's about timing, momentum, and yeah, we'll kind of see what's next. But I do want big fights, you know,
yeah,
exciting fights, stuff that gets me out of bed and just motivates the hell out of me. Not that I'm not motivated, but it's just like
right.
I don't want to fight people like who people don't know anyone about. You know.
Yeah, no, and that's completely fair. So I guess, like, what's kind of the game plan? Because as you did mention, like, a lot of those featherweights that are on top, you know, in the top 10 that are ranked above you, a lot of them are tied up. So do you kind of just sit back and wait to see some of those results and see how they play out and see what makes sense? Or I guess, you know, what exactly happens next?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I want to fight in October, so I would like to fight on that October 4th card in Vegas. Like I
Yeah.
said, the main card. So we'll kind of see how things play out, and if that doesn't happen, then something will happen shortly after. But yeah, I would like I'm okay with waiting another month or so to get a big name that the fans are extremely excited about.
Yeah. And how are you viewing the title picture right now at 45? Because it's interesting, right? Like, Volkanovski wins back the belt, so he kind of restores some order, but we know he's in sort of the later stages of his career as well. Holloway went up to 55, Ilia went up to 55, and then you got like the John Silvas and this young crop of guys that are kind of coming up. How are you seeing the division right now? Do you feel like the belt is a little bit more up for grabs than maybe a few years prior when Volkanovski was that sort of strong ruler at the top? Do you feel like, we'll see a lot of changes at the top?
Yeah, you possibly could, but it's Diego's. He's a solid fighter. He fought Volk, and Volk looked like he looked great, like he did back in the days when him and Holloway had the trilogy fight. So he looked phenomenal in that. Yeah, I guess you could say anyone can beat anyone on any given day, and yeah, it's the division is definitely interesting. That's for sure. But it's like that's why, with you saying it's up for grabs, I've always wanted to fight Volkanovski just because him and I are so similar in our styles and powerful and explosive. But obviously, I have to come back and win a handful of fights depending on who I get next, and that's why I want to fight forward. But yeah, it's exciting still.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Josh. Well, great catching up with you, and looking forward to what's next. Hopefully, you do get that fight in October that you want, and against one of the top guys that you're eyeing. The featherweight division right now is super interesting. I do think that this whole movement that we're seeing at the top just made it even more interesting. So yeah, tons of great matchups out there for you. Hopefully, you get one of those big ones, man. And thank you for your interview.
Cool, awesome, Danny. Have a good one, man.